mixed with freshly squeezed color, my colors for the distant tree and this near tree. So these two trees I'm going to paint now. And for the lightest color, it's the Hansa Yellow Medium with the cerulean blue or cerulean blue chromium. And then here is Hansa Yellow Medium with twice the amount of either your cerulean or cerulean blue chromium. And you can see with the French Ultramarine and the Hansa Yellow, because French Ultramarine leans more towards the purple. It has some, purple to it. It's starting to dull out because it has some kind of red. This is French Ultramarine and Pyrrole Scarlet. So these are the colors I'm going to be using for the tree stamping. And then these will be the colors for the little wall. So I'm going to wet my sponge. And squeeze it out. And remember, you want little fuzzy strokes. So I'm not going to hold my brush too tightly. So looking for something like that. I actually went into the pure yellow and onto my sponge a little bit because I want there to be pure yellow, and I'm moving my sponge in the areas that I feel that there'll be some more yellow areas. Now, this closer tree has more strokes like this, so I'm going to work along with my sponge, moving it, but in the diagonal lines here. So still in the lightest mix, because we have light colors up here. Moving the sponge around, coming down on the diagonal. Remember, we want to keep an eye on those shapes. We do want the tree to be going off the paper and breaking some with, you can see some blue coming through, and down in here it kind of just blurs together. I'm not going to clean my sponge. I'm going to go into my next color mix. I do want it to be a little darker, so I'm going to end up picking up a little more of the cerulean blue. And you can see I'm starting to get a darker value here. Probably mix up a little bit more so I have enough for both of the trees. Okay. So seeing that this is the next value up, trying to regulate the shapes a little bit. You can go in really, I'm squeezing the sponge a little bit, trying to get some more of the darker values in. Okay, so now I'm going to come in on this tree, thinking about the darks are more to the left side as we come down, trying to move that sponge around a little bit so we have some variations. And then I'm just going to go right into my French Ultra mix. And you can see it starts becoming a little more of an olivey color. And getting that. Squeezing the sponge a little bit so I have bigger areas where I think it's most dark. I'm really squeezing the sponge for the small little areas, so think about that. Now this area, I don't think there's enough color difference. I'm going to add some more French ultramarine. I'm just going to go right into the color itself on my palette and pick it up. Looking at where the shadows occur on some of the tree areas. And now I'm going to quickly clean my brush, my sponge, I keep on doing that, and go into the French Ultra and the Pyrrole. Getting a purple, and let's see, maybe a little more French in there. Okay. I'm going to do some negative painting down in here. And it's easier up in this tree. I'm going to go back and use more of the French and the Hansa yellow. Trying to get a little more of an olive value. Just to balance out that purple a little bit so it doesn't become so prominent. And I wouldn't come down any further. We'll end up putting in some other elements. I'm going to do some of sponging along here now. Once again, I'm thinking where the lights and the darks are. Have a nice light area in here, another light area in here. And then back into the next value, which is extra cerulean blue chromium and the yellow. So a darker value. Too much blue, more yellow. Okay, so I did test it, and this was what I came up with, and I didn't like it, so I've got more of that color. And you can come up over your rocks a little bit. Ultimately, we will paint into this, but while it's nice and damp with your first color coat, it's nice to get your next value in. Notice I'm turning the sponge, trying to bring some of that up, and then I'm going to rinse that out a little bit and pick up the French Ultra and some yellow looking for that olive tone again. Okay. Smidge more yellow. There we go. So that's a little more of an olivey tone. And you can go in, I know I didn't wet this like I said before, but you can go in now and start softening out. So you can see I'm kind of blending in some of the colors, and that kind of helps it along. Looks a little bit like more like shrubbery. And we will go back in later and mellow out all these white spots. Okay, and now we're going to go back to just a regular brush. Dry off my hand a little bit. And I'm going to go into the, I'll take probably my number 8, and we're going to go into the little cerulean blue chromium mix, the lightest mix. And just so you can get a feel for where that little wall is. So this is the lightest value. And then there's also a light area where this other fence comes up to meet it. I'll let that dry. The other thought I had was this little element in here actually is kind of a we'll be mixing some of these colors shortly. So this is a little burnt sienna in with the French ultramarine and the Hansa yellow. So let's see. Hansa yellow, medium, French ultra, and burnt sienna. And what I'm going to do here is going to start putting in some of the duller tones. And you can make it go up and down because we don't want it just to have to be a straight line. I think what I'm going to do, because I actually like this green that I made, I'm going to go in and paint the this background here. So we start getting a feeling of the hill. And including in this, I'm going to make a deeper mix with more this is more just French Ultra with a little burnt sienna. So first I'm going to put in the lighter mix across. Okay, so we don't get into trouble. I'm going to go in with even a little dirty water and wet my hill area, trying to cut in around some of that light sponged area that we put in with the clear water. Back in and wet it. Everything's drying really fast. Just cutting around some of those light areas. So I think while that's still damp, I'm just going to go in, and you can see this is a more softer tone. And then I'm going to go in here. I do have a little line here that ends up being a grassy area that I didn't paint in yet. And then this becomes a darker area for the stone wall that continues behind it. Pick up some more of that color. Try not to get my head in the camera, that would always be nice, huh? I'm just dotting in some of that hill color behind the sponged area. And this is just about dry, and it doesn't have to be totally dry. And you can take a slightly damp brush if you want, and if you can soften out some of the edges. And now, since they're distant hills, we don't have to worry. We don't want them to be create too much interest. Okay, that's still wet. And my colors are drying. Okay, French Ultra and Burnt Sienna. I did like putting in this roof will be light and this side of this house will be light, and so what I'm trying to do here is to create a value difference. So I want the value to be dark against the light of the roofs. Dry that brush out just a smidge and soften some edges. You can randomly soften your edges, and then you can always go back in and play around with it. That way it doesn't look quite as streaky.